Hello, people. Hello, cows. Hello, Don. What's up with Moo?
Hey, Sam, how you doing?
Good. So, if you're just joining us, this is What's Up with Moo, our casual conversation with fans of Kelowna Supernatural. Our guest today is Don Maurer. Don, did I pronounce that right?
You did. Perfect. It rhymes with
Good.
power, so that's all you got to do is remember. It reminds with power, but that's not an ego thing.
Don Maurer. I'm gonna give you a chunk of his full bio here because it's really impressive. We have a lot of customers that use our stuff and love it, but we'd love also to hear from professionals who've been in the business for a long time. So Don Maurer was discovered by the Chicago Sun-Times in 1992, where he was the entire page of its food section, not a little column, but the entire page. His popular Chicago Daily Herald food column continues appearing after more than 28 years. Maurer appeared on local and national television more than 200 times, and his stories have appeared in Cooking Light magazine, as well as Prevention, Diet and Exercise, Men's Health, Walking, and Southern Living magazines. He's written 5 cookbooks, including The Complete Idiot's Guide to Grilling. I think I've seen that one, and his bestseller, Lean and Lovin It. He's also, of course, a long-term member of the International Association of Culinary Professionals and participates in both its food writers and food and health experts section. So we have a terrific expert here today. Don's particular story seems to start with some of the health challenges he was facing. This must have been 20, 30 years ago. You look pretty lean and mean now.
Well, 20 or 30 years, let's see, back in 1990, I weighed over 300 pounds. I weighed 307 pounds.
Wow.
And through various pathways, I lost enough weight to get down to 200 pounds and kept it off by following essentially a low-fat food path. And because that was the right way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And science backed that up, except, the science was maybe not so solid. And I kept it off for a long time. That's how the Chicago Sun-Times discovered me. One of the people that had come to my house for dinner around 1991 sent a letter to the Chicago Sun-Times and said, "Hey, you should do a piece on Don Maurer. He's lost more than 100 pounds. He's kept it off for more than 2 years, and his food is unbelievably good." And so, and wasn't in the food business. I was in the photo lab business in Chicago. And it took a long time. I mean, those go into the bottom of the pile, at newspapers, and all of a sudden it popped up in 1992, and they called me up and said, "Listen, can we do a piece on you with you share your recipes, and of course we'll take them to the Sun-Times test kitchens and test them out, and come out to your home and take pictures, and if that's okay with you, we'd like to do that." And I said, "Fine with me." And they came out and did that. And like I said, it surprised me. The entire front page of the food section was this huge piece of art of me flying over fat, mashed potatoes and gravy and macaroni and cheese and that kind of stuff. And they did this enormous article. And at the end of it, I had my P.O. box there in Illinois saying, "Listen, if you've got a high-fat recipe you want fixed in some way so that you can continue eating it, send it to me at my P.O. box. I'll be happy to see what I can do with it." And I got lots of email from that. And I went, maybe there's a way to share this. And so I don't want to bore you with the pathway, but pieces fell into place, not necessarily of my own doing. It surprised me. I went to the Chicago Daily Herald, said I want to do a column, and they said, "Send us a sample," and I did. And so in October of 92, my column, Lean and Lovin It, began running there. And a month later, a young producer-director from a local cable company came to me and said, "Listen, we'd like to do a cooking show on local cable. Would you be willing to do that?" And I had never done television before, but I went, "Sure." "What does it pay?" "Nothing." "We'll cover the food, as long as it doesn't exceed $25 for half an hour." And I took him up on it. I went, "Sure, what the heck? I'm happy to do it." And that's how I learned to cook on television, because I've been on television, like you said, more than 200 times. Most of those times I'm cooking on television, and that's a real skill to take my word for it. When you look at people cooking on television, they make a mistake, you go, "Boy, that was stupid." You go, "You have no idea how hard it is to cook on television, because you're cooking and talking to a camera and doing all this stuff and multitasking like crazy." And so, yeah, it's during the time up until about 10, let's say maybe a little bit longer ago, slowly but surely I had what they call weight creep.
Hmm.
In other words, I didn't put back 100 pounds on in a month. It just went a little bit at a time. And so by about 15 years ago, I had gone back up to 327 pounds, which you can see because I'm live today. I don't weigh 327 pounds. But I did it in a different way where I had learned over time that fat is not, certain fats are not bad for you. Whole milk products like whole milk or whole milk yogurt and that kind of stuff are actually good for you, as long as they are organic. In other words, what those fabulous cow. I mean, today I told you, I said, this is the program. What's up, Moo? And I didn't know I was going to be talking to a cow today. So, Moo. Oh, well, that's a good question, Moo. But whole milk is in my world is a healthy thing. And one of the things I discovered a few years ago was at my own Whole Food store was Kalona's whole milk cottage cheese.
Ah, yep.
And it was more expensive than some of the other cottage cheeses there. But I don't know. I went, I'm going to give this a try. I wasn't sure what supernatural meant, And I bought it and I took it home. And my first spoon out of Kalona Supernatural's whole milk cottage cheese tasted like cottage cheese. I'm 73 years old, so I can reach back in time at least 50 or 60 years and go, this tastes like cottage cheese used to taste like when I was a kid. This is really good cottage cheese. And I turned a bunch of people onto it here, and all of them that went out and bought it came back to me and went, Don, that is the best cottage cheese I've ever had. And that's sort of how I started with finding Kalona products. And I really that product was good. And it's not, you didn't pay me to buy it. It wasn't being couponed, so I didn't get a discount on it. I paid full price off the shelf, and it was so good. For me, it's so good. It's worth the money. And that's how I discovered Kalona.
If you're just joining us, this is What's Up with Moo, our casual conversation with fans of our Kalona Supernatural organic dairy products. This is Don Maurer. Don has appeared on television over 200 times, has written hundreds and hundreds of recipes and food columns, has appeared in all kinds of magazines whose names you would recognize. So we're delighted that he's a guest today. I think that the interesting thing for people who've been following us is that we're proponents of full fat dairy, and right away early on you started saying you were famous for doing low fat food, and then discovered that the science was not so great on that, and it was just a fad and trendy, but not scientifically backed up. And then you switched to full fat organic. That was important to you, full fat organic dairy. Yep. Did you start writing different things then? Where were you? You've written at least five cookbooks.
That's right.
Including The Idiot's Guide to Grilling and Lean and Lovin It. And did you start to change then how you were writing and what you were saying to people about fat?
Well, it started to change when I started putting weight back on. I stopped doing anything live, especially when I broke through 300 pounds, because I write a column called Lean and Lovin It. And if I appeared there live, they go, that's not so lean.
Yeah.
And so the first thing I did when I found out that I was at 327 pounds is I got to do something about this. And once I had then I lost 150 pounds through a weight loss program. And when I got about halfway down, I went to my editor and I said, listen, this is what's going on here. Because she didn't know that I had zoomed back up. And I said, what I'd like to do is share with my readers what happened and what's happening now. And she went, I think that's a good idea. Because I thought when I revealed that to her that even at that time I weighed 250 pounds, that she'd go, you are so toast. You are done. You've been fraudulent for years. And I went, oh, God. But fortunately, she said, I think it's going to, and it did. What I like, the kind of writing that I do is a very conversational writing. If you've read anything that I write, it's very conversational. It's just sort of you and me, the reader and me chatting about stuff, sort of like you and I are today, Sam. And by the way, when you said lots of columns, I've written more than 1,000 columns. Believe it or not, it astounds the heck out of me.
Wow!
That I've written nearly 1,100 columns about food. And so I reached out to my readers and I said, listen, this is what happened. And so what they did is they put a little box at the bottom of every column that appeared of what my new weight was. So that really made me commit to sticking to this program. And my readers reached out because they have the same issues I do.
Yeah.
They did. They lose weight and can't keep it off, and and so it really made a great connection with them, which is why I've been able to keep writing for 28 years that same column in Chicago, for the huge metropolitan area. And I think that, but what I learned there is that. And part of the problem with low fat is what most food manufacturers were replacing fat with is sugar.
Yep.
So I mean, you look at low fat Oreos and you go, the calories are about the same. But, there's now less fat, but and that's because for texture reasons they added sugar so that. And one of the things I learned early on about low fat was that fat is the transportation on which flavor rides. So when you take all the fat out of something, you've got no transportation for the flavor. And it's why most fat-free products didn't taste that good, because they had no flavor transportation. So that's why they pumped up the sugar, so that there was at least some more flavor there, even though it was just sweet. And so, what I loved about, the finding out that low fat wasn't so good is, yippee, I can really create some fabulous recipes where if you're doing healthy fats and like your yogurts and all of your products, whole milk creates the transportation for flavor. So now I can make stuff taste really, really good, and I have been able to keep most of the weight that I lost off by doing that. And so fat doesn't make you fat. So if people are staying away from Kalona products because they have whole milk in it, you don't need to do
that. Thank you. Yeah, our organic is a little different than most you'll find on the shelves. It's from grass-fed, pasture-grazed cows on small family farms in the Midwest. Most of them are Amish and Mennonite. Many of them have been in their own family for 150 years. They're primarily organics, or they're organic, of course. So there's no pesticides, herbicides, or GMOs. And then when we have that great flavorful milk, we do as little as possible to it. So it's pasteurized at the lowest possible temperature allowed by law. We like to say #never UHT, and it's non-homogenized. So as you know, the cream in normal milk naturally rises to the top, but a lot of companies smash it into millions of particles to disperse it, which actually was a way that unscrupulous milk merchants used to be able to hide the amount of cream they'd skimmed off the milk before selling it. They would say, well, it's homogenized, and that's the way it's supposed to be. So we're kind of, we're a little bit of a throwback to the way milk was supposed to be from cows that you get off the farm. And a lot of our customers grew up on farms, or they're involved in the environmental movement, where they believe that cows are a key to regenerating the soil, making it more healthy, or they grew up in another country where there's a lot less pasteurization and processing. So our milk is definitely different, and our products are definitely different from a lot of the ones you'll find out there. Even big organic dairy companies, like most of them, the big ones that you'll see on the shelves, won't mention any names, but are going to ultra high temp pasteurization, right? Which is essentially sterilizing the milk at 280 degrees Fahrenheit. So, yeah. So you've talked about the health difference for you. What's some of the other cooking differences you've found when you're cooking with our or any other real organic,
right,
organic dairy?
Well, first, what I'm going to jump to is one of the things that you just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
I like dairy products coming from small family farms, because that makes a difference to them. Yeah. What's coming off of those farms is usually something that they will feed their family farms. They've got kids. So whatever they're doing on that farm, whether it's produce or dairy, they're feeding that to their kids. So the one thing they want to do, as all parents do, they want to make sure their kids are eating great, healthy foods. And so, because big corporate farms, not so much. There are no kids. They're just employees. And so I like that whole concept of small family farms. Where I live, I can access some things from small farms around here, and I want to support that. Not just because I think it's important to support it, but because I think I'm getting healthier food from there.
Yeah.
I think a lot of organically raised or regeneratively raised produce that I get here tastes better.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm finding that products like Kalona also taste better, just like the cottage cheese. It wasn't that, oh yeah, this is cottage cheese. Yes, it's good. It tastes like I want it to taste. And then I want to take that and make things from it and have people come over to my house for dinner and go, my God, Don, this tastes fabulous. And it starts with those kinds of products like Kalona's or what I'm getting from local farms around here. And those small farmers are motivated, I think, to do the best they can because their entire livelihood is directly related to what they're doing here. And there's something about those small farms in Iowa that makes a difference because every product that I've ever tasted from Kalona tastes with two things. They taste like what I remembered those good things tasting like 60 years ago, that hadn't been fooled with, that hadn't been ultra pasteurized. I mean, I'm wondering, why do you need to ultra pasteurize that product? When just pasteurizing it in a normal pathway should be just fine, just like you guys do. Because, and this is the difference between like raw milk and pasteurized. Pasteurized milk, which most of us get, is cooked milk. And it tastes different once it's cooked. So how that's cooked plays a role in its flavor profile. So how cooked do you want that to be? I want it cooked as little as possible so it tastes as much like it would if it was raw. Because for lots of hundreds of years, we used to do raw product. We didn't pasteurize milk. They took it off the cow, put it in a can, took it in, refrigerated it, and drank it, ate it, used it to cook with, and that kind of stuff. And everybody was fine with that. And they're used to that. I had an uncle who had a farm up in Kenosha, Wisconsin 25 years ago. He had his own dairy herd. And he used to have, I used to taste raw milk from his cows. It tastes different. And it tastes better in my world. And so I like it that Kalona, you have to legally pasteurize it, but you pasteurize it right to the letter of the law, because I think that's important. And I'll tell you a quick story. When I was probably 10 years old, I've been cooking since I was like 7 or 8 years old. Now, I don't mean cooking like a restaurant chef. No, I started out by making scrambled eggs. How hard is that? The worst you can do is burn it, So, but we used to get milk in bottles delivered to our back door when I was that age. And the cream floated to the top. And I actually skimmed the cream off of a couple bottles, quarts of milk, real milk, unhomogenized milk, and made butter when I was 10 years old. Beat it all up, turn it, because I thought that, if that can be turned into butter, let's do it. It was sort of like this fascinating child chemical thing, magic. We're going to take this and turn it into that. And it didn't taste that good. I didn't realize that they salted butter. Unsalted butter out of the bowl. I didn't realize that they also salted it, and that's what makes, gives butter the flavor profile. But now you guys do butter, right?
We do. We have salted and unsalted, and it has one ingredient: certified organic grade A sweet cream. Oh, and the Celtic sea salt if you want the salt to add to the flavor profile.
And I think that's what I like about Kalona and other products that do that. It's sea salt is good salt. If you look at off the shelf, I'm not going to name any names, but off the shelf table salt, there's more in there than table salt. And so, iodine, which was important, and then things to keep it from caking and doing all sorts of other chemicalized table salt. So I've been I've been doing sea salt and other forms of natural salt that just like you guys. What's in salt? Salt. That's it. Anything else? Nope, just salt. So in your butter, what's in it? Cream and salt. That's it. And for me, just on a general basis, for the kinds of things that I buy, I want the shortest ingredient list possible.
Yeah.
Drives me crazy picking stuff up off the shelf and turning it around to read the ingredient list, and it's a really long list of a lot of things I can't pronounce.
Yeah. Yeah.
That bothers me a lot. And I go, am I going to eat that? Probably not. So, I wish I'm sorry that I haven't tasted your butter, but my guess is because I've tasted your cottage cheese and your buttermilk and your milk. The biggest problem I had with your milk is getting the cream is up at the top and in the neck, and the bottle has a small, open there. And so the first time I went to pour it out of there, it wouldn't come out because the cream blocked that little neck up on the top of it.
Yep.
I had to sort of stick a knife in there and break the cream up a little bit, and then I could get the milk out with some of the cream.
Lots of people scoop it off and use it. They put it in their coffee, or they eat it with cookies or whatever. We just learned a new trick from our brand and sales manager, Joe Miller, who's been doing dairy since he was 11. But it's, instead of shaking it like this or like this, because it compacts it, we're supposed to shake it sideways. So
see, now you just taught me something.
Yeah, yeah. And then we tell parents, like, because kids will be, what's that? Kids are used to lots of garbage. We're like, take the opportunity as parents to use that as an opportunity to educate your kids about organic and raw natural food and what happens to it, what it feels like and looks like, and how it's different. I laugh because, my kids are fans of Kraft macaroni and cheese, like the worst, box processed stuff, but they put Kalona Supernatural butter on it. So I call that our organic offset. Like, they may eat a lot of bad stuff, and I have fights about that all the time, but at least as a parent, I'm doing just a little bit of good every day by getting them at least some good ingredients, in the diet. And then I tell them, of course, about, I would say, conventional dairy and the impact on the animals and the land. And then they were shocked. Let's say the most sensitive one, of course, will not drink that stuff anymore. We don't talk a lot about it on our blogs, but our small family farms are mostly Amish and Mennonite. So the picture you have in your head is pretty accurate of using a lot of implements. The herds, the average size herd is 35 to 40. Some have maybe 60, but that's and they graze in the grass. They come out of the barn, totally different than the big conventional dairies, where the cows are producing 3 times the milk because they're cooped up and stuffed with GMOs and grains and all kinds of other garbage. And then, of course, they get the milk, and then they do additives and preservatives and all kinds of other stuff to the food that just isn't very good. So,
and you and I discussed off camera about some of the reasons that they do that. I'm not about to say here why, because I don't want to. They're just my thoughts on it, not because I happen to know the facts or happen to have gone out to those big dairies and seen this happen. I haven't, and so, but it's what I like about this. I think there's a relationship between people and food. Mm-hmm. Because our food comes from, one of the things I was surprised about, this is not about dairy quite so much, but when I had my first garden, I had some eggplants, and I realized that for an eggplant, and this is true about most of those kinds of things like tomatoes and such, that they start out as flowers. Mm. Mm-hmm. And that flower turns into an eggplant, or that flower turns into a tomato. So human beings are actually eating flowers. Mm-hmm. They started out as flowers, which is a very kind of romantic, universe in touch with kinds of thing. But it's what we were meant to do. We were never meant to grind it up, we were never meant to do all the things we've been doing to highly processed foods. Never meant to. The closer we go to nature, the closer those products are whole, like Kalona's products, the better they are. The shorter ingredient list if it is processed. Bread, flour, water, yeast, salt. Done. Short ingredient list. No dough softeners, no preservatives, And so those are the things I'm looking for. And for me, it's important to support small family farms, which is the neat thing about Kalona, because Kalona is distributed nationally, but it's based on small family farms, which makes me feel good as a buyer. It's not just that the product is good, but I'm supporting small family farms, which is what I try to do here with produce, by buying carrots for somebody locally that grew it. I want to support those guys. And I think other people do too.
Yeah, and it's something, we've sort of been wrestling with, or the organic, there's the organic standard, and a lot of customers have come to expect, the organic label and standard, and that means something. But we're sort of finding, and the feedback we're getting is that organic is not enough. And I think that's in our tagline, beyond organic, beyond delicious. It's not enough to just be organic. You should then not heavily process the stuff in a way that beats the organic out of it and sterilizes the organic out of it. And then, our farms have been as close to regenerative as you can get for years. But there's even, probably more we need to do in that area in terms of not just preserving the land and having sustainable farms, but actually ones that are regenerating the soil and helping clean the atmosphere rather than pollute it. So I don't know. We should probably have a show called Beyond Organic and talk about all those things as well. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say this. This has just been such an interesting discussion. We should probably do that. Have some more
Sure.
long discussions. Maybe even on Clubhouse, the new audio app.
Right. The Moo Clubhouse. The Moo Club.
Yeah.
We're part of the Moo Club. No, this has been great. I really enjoyed this, and I appreciate anybody who thinks that my opinions have any value whatsoever, because it's just the way I live my life. But I'll tell you real quick, my grandmother was a doctor, and she subscribed to what at that time was called organic farming and gardening. It was part of the Rodale family of Rodale also publishes Prevention Magazine and Men's Health. So. And they used to do organic farming and gardening, and she used to get that magazine. So that's how long ago organics was in my consciousness. And I was taught way back when I was little Donnie, how important those things are, and they are important.
That's wonderful. If you're just joining us, our guest today has been Don Maurer on What's Up with Moo, our casual conversation. Don has been a food columnist for decades, shall I say?
28 years, more than 28 years.
More than 28 years. Has written well over 1,100 columns, the author of numerous recipes, 5 cookbooks, including a bestseller, and has done over 200 appearances on local and national television, including Good Morning America.
Yeah.
If you're interested in food, if you're interested in cooking, if you're interested in the difference it can make to your health, or with your family and living your values, we'd love to have you on as a special guest. You can submit a form on our website, of course, KalonaSupernatural.com. Just look for the community area. We have other live stream shows you can find out about there. If you would like to subscribe to our newsletter to save $1 off any of our products and try them for the first time, that would be wonderful as well. And if you're in other parts of the country, you can check out our store locator page on KalonaSupernatural.com to find out where our products are in the store near you. Don, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. I think we'd love to have you back, or love to do some other kind of show with you and have even more discussion.
Well, thanks, Sam. I'm really pleased to have been your guest. And if there's anybody watching this going, I'd like to do this too, it is absolutely painless. It did not hurt at all.
How can they find you? We've got your email address, and we can share your information. I will edit this live feed to include your information, including your email address if you want it out there publicly. Do you have a website they could go to?
I did. It's not the greatest website in the world. If you want to see my columns for the Daily Herald, I think you can conclude that somewhere, because it's a really long link, to dailyherald.com/lifestyle/feed food, but that's how you would find it. And if you wanted to reach out to me and say, hey, Don, I like what you're doing, and tell me more about what you're doing, they can find me at One Leanwizard @gmail.com. One Lean, Lean, Wizard, Wizard @gmail.com. I'm a happy wizard. I'm a magician.
And if you message us, of course, we can get you in touch with Don. And a Google search will turn up hundreds of columns. And
yeah, really. You're going to know more about me than you ever wanted to know.
Thank you, Don.
Thanks, Sam.
Being on What's Up with Moo.